The coconut milk that I used must have been a really fatty coconut milk, but in the best way because this is so creamy, but it's really good. I'm gonna devour this whole bowl. Hi beautiful people, it's Anna Grace back again with another video. Today I am going to be prepping some budget-friendly work lunches for myself. I typically like to do this ahead of time and then I portion all of the lunches out and freeze them so that when I get up for work in the morning and I'm getting ready to leave, I just take them out of the freezer and then put them in the fridge once I get to work so they're already ready to go. I also wanted to break down the price of how much everything costs just because I feel like this is a relatively affordable way to make your lunches and I'm all for money saving tips, and I know that things are just getting more and more expensive. So I think I'm going to make a red Thai curry lentil mixture. I also got some red peppers, some zucchini, I have onion. I also have this Thai style red curry paste, chicken better than bouillon, which I've talked about before, some green lentils, they're dry green lentils, 2 cans of coconut milk, and then I also have some jasmine rice. This is a vegetarian meal option, so if you eat meat, you can always add in some chicken, beef, really whatever you want. This would also be great with tofu, but this is just how I do it, and I love lentils. They're also affordable. I'm also going to do a breakdown of how much everything costs so that it can help you compare how much it would cost for you to cook from home versus how much it would cost for you to go out to eat. Alright you guys, I am going to walk through how much everything costs in order to prep these lunches. Hi cutie! You wanna come sit in my lap? Alright, so I have a little friend that's gonna help me go through how much everything costs in order to prep all of these meals. I ended up having 11 meals total. I'm gonna call that 11 servings because there were a few that I prepped that have 2 servings in one container, and some people will eat 2 servings, but I'm going to say 11 servings total. So the first thing, hi! The first ingredient that we have is coconut milk. I had 2 cans and they were $2.49 per can. I had 2 zucchini, which was $2.04. 2 red bell peppers, those came out to $3.18. The red curry paste came out to $3.49. The rice was $6 for a 32-ounce pack of Thrive Market white organic rice. I used 16 ounces or 2 cups, so that comes out to $3 for the rice. For the green lentils, it was $3.32 for a 14-ounce bag from Thrive Market. I used 1.5 cups, which comes out to $2.85 for 1.5 cups or 12 ounces. I used 1 yellow onion. I got a pack of them for $3.09 and just used 1 of the 6. So that comes out to 51 cents for 1 yellow onion. I also got my chicken flavored better than bouillon paste for $4.49. I only used 2 teaspoons out of that whole container, so that's about 25 cents for 2 teaspoons. So used 1 tablespoon of olive oil. The whole container was $16.24, which brings my total to 32 cents for the olive oil. When adding all of the ingredients up with the amount that I used for each ingredient, that brings the total to $20.62 to prep all 11 meals, and that brings the total to $1.87 per serving. I did not account for tax, so if you want to account for tax, you could round it up to about $2 per serving, even if it's $2.50 per serving. That is gonna save you a lot of money as compared to going to Chipotle for lunch and spending $10 on a bowl. I do want to make a disclaimer that I live in Ohio, so if you are living somewhere else where the prices tend to be more expensive than they are in the Midwest, obviously your total is going to come to a different number than what mine is at. But at the end of the day, cooking at home and sourcing ingredients that are budget friendly but also healthy are going to save you so much money. And I also just love to prep in advance because it saves me a lot of time, especially when life just gets really busy, and so I'm able to grab a healthy, affordable meal at the beginning of my day. Thank you, Ely, for helping me walk through all of the money and how much everything costs. So let's just go ahead and get into cooking. The very first thing that I'm going to prep right here is just one yellow onion. Of course, you can make any adjustments to this recipe if you like more onion, if you don't like red peppers, want to switch the veggies out for other things. This is my little discard bowl right here. You always gotta have one, in my personal opinion. I feel like it just makes cleanup a lot more efficient. I had to put my glasses on to help while I'm cutting this onion, but I am just going to dice this because I just feel like that's the easiest. Okay, I guess I forgot to include this as an ingredient, but I'm also going to use a little bit of olive oil. I'm just going to use like a tablespoon, and I'm going to saute these onions and just let them cook down on low until they're translucent. And while they're cooking down, I'm going to cut the other veggies. I am stirring them around right now just to make sure that everything is fully coated in olive oil because I don't want anything to stick. The next thing that I'm gonna chop up is the red peppers because I like these to be cooked down quite a bit as well. I just finished chopping down the 2 red bell peppers. I'm gonna go add these to the pot as well, and I am going to stir everything around, let them continue to cook down while I come back here and cut the zucchini. I love prepping zucchini just because it's so fast to chop up. Here are my 2 chopped zucchinis. I am going to set these aside and put them in at the very end of everything cooking just because they cook down so fast and I don't want them to be soggy. So let's go over to my stovetop and prep the other ingredients. I am adding 1.5 cups of dried green lentils. I just rinse them. I like to use this fine mesh strainer. This thing is the best. So I'm just gonna pour these into the red peppers and onions. Give it a good stir. Now I'm going to add the Thai red curry paste. I want to do this before adding any liquid just because I feel like it helps mix it around a little bit easier. I'm also going to add a little bit of water to this and shake it around just so that I get everything out of here. I'm also going to add about 2 or so teaspoons of chicken better than bouillon paste. I just tried to stir the paste around as well as possible, and now I'm going to add 2 cans, 2 13.5 ounce cans of coconut milk. Wow, this coconut milk is really thick, so it's gonna be nice and creamy. I will give you a close-up in a second so that you can see what it's looking like. I'm gonna let this simmer for about 30 minutes. Then I'm gonna add the zucchini, and then I'll probably cook it for an additional 15 minutes just so that those lentils can get as soft as possible. I also have the heat set to about medium, a little bit higher than medium right now. I'm just gonna let this simmer. I don't necessarily want it to be like boiling, but just simmer for 30 minutes. I moved my other pot over so that you can see this pot that I have right here. I am going to prep the rice. Here I have 2 cups of dried jasmine rice. I have already rinsed this. And I'm also gonna add 4 cups of water. Here I have 4 cups of water. The lentils and veggies are boiling right now, so I just lowered it all the way to low. Now I have the rice and water in here. I'm just stirring it up. We'll let it come to a boil and then I will lower it. After it boils, I don't really have like a time or anything I follow when I cook rice. I kind of just keep an eye on it, and when it looks like it's done to me. Alright you guys, my rice is boiling, so I'm turning the heat down to low, and I'm going to stir this really well. One thing I've learned about cooking rice is that the most important thing, in my personal opinion, is just to keep stirring, because especially when you're cooking with stainless steel or something that's not non-stick, it can just stick to the bottom so easily, and then that is really hard to clean. So I just turned it to low. Now I'm gonna continue stirring until the bubbles calm down just a tiny bit, and once it comes to more of a simmer, I am going to cover it, and then I can leave it for a few minutes at a time without stirring. I'm gonna cover this but leave a vent hole, and then I'll come back in about 5 minutes. The water has pretty much all soaked up from the rice, so what I did is I just turned the heat off. I'm stirring this so that I can make sure and scrape anything off the bottom so that doesn't stick. And I am just going to cover this until I'm ready to add it into my containers. I'm also taking it off the heat source because, again, I don't want it to stick to the bottom. I have also been stirring my lentils over here every couple of minutes as well. It's starting to get pretty thick, so I think I'm going to add a half a cup of water and turn the heat to low. Alright, everything is finally ready to go and it's done cooking. I just simmered the zucchini for about 10 minutes. I actually simmered them for about 15 minutes. So I cooked all of this down for about 45 minutes total. I have a bunch of these small little glass containers that I'm going to measure everything into. I would recommend using glass because I reheat this in the microwave, and I mean you can reheat plastic, but I personally don't like to put plastic in the microwave. So in each of these I'm gonna do half a cup of rice, and then I think I'm gonna do half a cup of the lentil mixture as well. I actually think I'm gonna do 3/4 of a cup of the lentils. So I'm gonna do a little bit more in this one. These lentils have been cooking down for about 30 minutes. I did end up adding a half a cup of water just because it was getting really thick. And I'm gonna add the zucchini and then I'll cook this down for about 10 more minutes. I'm gonna add another half a cup of water because I personally like a pretty saucy lentil mixture. I'm gonna bring this back up to a boil, and then once it's boiling, I will stir it a little bit and then bring it back to low, and I will keep it at low for the remainder of the 10 minutes. Alright, you guys, the lentils and rice are in containers and ready to go into the freezer. I ended up being able to make 11 servings. I feel like there are various things that can end up affecting how many servings you have once you're done with cooking this. You know, like if the veggies that you use are different sizes, but I think 11 servings prepped and ready to go in the freezer are pretty good and are, I mean, that's gonna save me quite a bit of time. So I'm very excited to have these prepped, and I'm happy that I got to share this with you today. These 2 containers right here each have 2 servings in them because I prepped these for my boyfriend Tanner, and he eats a little bit more than I do. So that's another thing you can do, is you can just use a larger container and put 2 servings in as well. You just won't get as many meals out of it. One of the servings that I made is also going to be my dinner tonight, so I'm very excited to eat it. I do want to make a disclaimer that the Thai curry paste is spicy, so if you don't like spicy, this is probably not going to be the recipe. I promise that I will eventually come up with another meal prep recipe that is not spicy. Thank you so much for watching another one of my videos. I hope you enjoyed it and got some great tips on how to be more efficient and budget friendly in your kitchen. And I hope you enjoy the rest of your day. Bye.